listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft, the people who play it. Today is February 5th, 2024, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host, Jason Lucas. Jason, how are you doing this fine Monday?
Spencer, hello. I'm doing okay. I'm coming around a little bit. I've been sick for a couple weeks now, but I'm starting to feel a little bit more like a human.
Good.
So that's good. So I'm here. It's been a really slow news week. Although we have a bunch of new stuff happening with the in-game holidays and stuff, but man, they were teasing like whatever 10.2.6 is going to be and the pirate thing. There was a lot of WoW devs on Twitter posting Jolly Roger emojis and stuff, but ended up being nothing, discernible last week. So, this week, obviously, we got a big release coming up with Season Discovery Phase 2 rolling out. So maybe after that, maybe we'll see something, but kind of in a holding pattern this week.
Yeah, it's been a little weird when stuff started so early on this past week with those pirate flags and being like, we're going to find out. This is it. Like, if everyone's starting to do it, it's like, no, they're just reminding you that it exists. That's all they're doing. It's like, hey, FYI, this exists. It's a thing. And like you said, it's not a whole lot going on live game at the moment as far as, things to explore and check out that's brand new, but there are a lot of holidays happening at the moment. Right now, we are currently in the middle of Darkmoon Fair. It's already kicked off. Lunar Fest has already kicked off. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show when we're covering what's going on this week, but it is certainly an exciting period of time for folks who are, interested in getting micro holidays done, interested in farming certain mounts, trying to get some new dragon riding armors. There's a lot of things out there that you can pick up, which is pretty neat. So certainly worth listening in, and we'll get into what's going on this week in just a little bit here. How's this past week in World of Warcraft been for you, Jason?
It was good. It was a little quiet, but it was pretty good. Still raiding, of course. Raid Reclear was really good, actually, and we ended up at Heroic Farok by 9:15 or something Tuesday, but we decided to just call it a bit early instead of trying to trim the group down and then go do Mythic Gnarl route before 9:30. But we still ended up having plenty of time to kill everything. No axes this week, which was disappointing. We have so many strength users who are still looking for that axe, and we're kind of out of stuff to use it for. Like, we're not really doing any more prog or anything, so it's just the way these legendaries work is just so disappointing. But yeah, no luck with those last week. We got back through Mythic Volcross, and we actually did have a reasonable group to go look at Mythic Council, and man, we had a couple heartbreakers. We should have probably been able to kill it, but we had some brain farts with the polymorph bomb and the ducks and eating the flowers around Song of the Dragon on a couple really close attempts.
I love hearing the descriptions of bosses and what happened in a wipe and all that kind of business, because it's always hilarious to be like, someone messed up the ducks and this didn't happen and they weren't feeding this thing properly and all hell broke loose.
With Council, it's always I feel like those are the worst, like, most knife twisting wipes that we have is people panic because they're a duck and they're trying to become not a duck as fast as they can, but then they eat that last flower patch that's going to let the entire raid break Song of the Dragon, and then we all die. So we didn't have signups for Sunday. We only had like 13 people signed up or whatever, so we didn't get back in on Mythic. I ended up just, taking last night off a raid. I think maybe they might have put a group together for Time Walking Firelands, but I just really needed the time to do something a bit more productive. I have a lot of stuff going on right now, so I needed a couple extra hours. So kind of a light, another light raid week for me. I'm feeling pretty good about the 2-night week. Really, we could probably realistically do one night of Amir Drasil at this point and just do like the Heroic Unlock, the 3 farm Mythic bosses, and say see you next week. But I don't know. We'll see. I like that about the raid. It very much respects your time. In terms of Keystone stuff, I did a bunch. I filled up the vault. I think I got 1 point of rating. I'm not pushing stuff. I was kind of in that 21 to 22 zone, which felt great and very time efficient. It's well within, the proficiency range of the people that I play with. It's funny that 22s feel that easy this season, but that is kind of where they've landed for us. So It's nice, again, I'm having fun with the dungeon pool. It was an okay week. There was a couple spots where bursting with some other effects was a little hairy, but overall, like I think I timed everything I stepped into last week or something like that, pretty close out of the 8 dungeons I did. But overall, it was a pretty good week, and also squeezed in one more BFD while it was still SoD Phase 1 endgame. So that was nice, just get in there one more time. I think that raid was super fun for, serving its purpose of that super low level endgame. Never got a one-hander though. There's 2 pretty cool one-handers out of that place, and I never saw either of them. I saw one of them drop once and somebody else took it, and the other one I never saw. And that was, I did it weekly for about a month and a half, so I got plenty of BFDs in there. But yeah, it was fun. I've had a great time with that raid. I'm not I'm in that zone where I'm kind of not looking forward to Phase 2 coming out this week because I don't want to do the work of getting set back up and spending, putting all the time in. I kind of just want to raid log, but, we're going to have to get up to 40 and get some stuff situated before we could do that, which it'll be fine probably once it starts happening and everybody gets into it, then I'll kind of feel the pull. But, the last week or so has been more of, do I really want to play Phase 2? I don't know. I'm sure I will, but it's just we're on that precipice, right? So I'm like, I don't know. Maybe enough is enough here.
Yeah, I can respect that feeling for sure. I am excited about it. I certainly am looking forward to the leveling process. I agree that it is kind of just a nice place to be when you're kind of raid logging and chilling, when there's a lot of other stuff going on and a lot of other games you want to play and things like that. Looking to I have to spend 3 to 4 days leveling a character, like really playing the game, leveling a character to get to the end game, to be able to play the end game again, and it's regearing again, and etc. Can sometimes not be a process that people enjoy. Whenever I think of that, I always think of the game Diablo, where a new season comes out, it resets everything, and if you wanted to actually just keep playing at endgame, yes, you had the option to do it by just not progressing anywhere. You could just raid the old raid all of the time and just not progress your character at all. But if you actually want to be in there with everyone else and what everyone else is doing, you have to start from scratch, level through the process again to be able to get the end game and start the actual end game grind, which is what you're sort of looking forward to. So, yeah, I get that. I will say that I think we're planning on leveling or at least doing a raid this week because we've heard that the experience from the raid is actually very good. So I think we're actually planning, on Thursday night or Friday or something to get in there and actually do one pass at the raid to see what it felt like as far as leveling up goes, which is kind of neat. So I'm looking forward to that. We did do a raid this past week, the final raid. But, again, attendance is minor because people are bracing themselves and getting a break in before they dive into the Phase 2 stuff. So we'll talk more about Phase 2 when we get later into the show. There was a big blog post that came out about it, and there's certainly some aspects of it I want to highlight. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's probably going to be the most WoW time that I put in this week will be inside Season of Discovery. I'll obviously be doing a lot of, set it and forget it flight path stuff for Lunarfest, because I will do that to sort of max out my journal for the month to get that done. So if you're someone who's looking to get your journal done, it's super easy this month with the amount of events and things going on. So it's just about committing the time into doing it. And I will remind people you can dragon ride when you're flying around doing that stuff now. So there are some aspects of that quest that are of the quest for Lunarfest and I'm sure for Loves in the Air they're going to be much faster to do by just dragon riding around, which is exciting. I definitely did a bunch of dragon riding around already for Lunarfest, just collecting stuff up, and yeah, it's super fast. So that is enjoyable to do. I definitely dig, especially since Lunarfest takes place around the Moonglade. You're sort of at the top of the world, and you can kind of just dragon glide anywhere you want from there, which is kind of nice. So yeah, there's certainly some fun aspects to it, but yeah, outside of that, I didn't get up to too much other WoW stuff this past week. I sort of did the regular reputation grind, did my super bloom, did that kind of stuff, and it was just kind of good for the week. So yeah, I'll look forward to Phase 2 and digging back into WoW a little more later this week. All right, well, with that, I guess we'll hop into what's actually happening this week in World of Warcraft. All right, this week in WoW is the Battleground bonus event, as well as the Pet Battle bonus event. So Battlegrounds have a Sign of Battle buff that's up that increases your honor gains from wins and objectives by 50%, as well as a quest to win 4 random battle rounds, which gets you some marks of honor and conquest. And then, of course, the Pet Battle bonus event is that the Sign of the Critter buff is up, increasing your Pet Battle experience gained by 100%. And there's a quest to win 5 PvP Pet Battles of level 25 teams, which rewards a Ultimate Pet Battle Training Stone, which instantly trains a pet up to level 25. So if you're someone who went to the Traveler's Journal area and picked up your Traveler's currency, the new little like beetle bug with the hearts on it, then you can level that one up to max level if you win 5 PvP Pet Battles level 25. There you go. There's a use for it right there, if that's something that you're looking to do. The other checklist for this week is aiding the Accord. Obviously, you want to pick that up, and it'll be Emerald Bounty or something else, and just sort of pick it up. Plant your 4 seeds, and then you're done for the week as far as that goes. As long as you get your 3K rep, get yourself a nice reward from that. The Brawl is going to be Packed House, where they've put basically more PvP inside of your PvP. It's like a stuffed crust of PvP. There's nowhere to hide as not 2, not 3, not 5, but 15 adversaries face off in this 15 versus 15 arena battle. So yeah, basically it's arenas, except they put full 15-person battleground groups in against each other, and you just fight, and it's basically a clash that is done in like 3 to 4 minutes, and one team becomes victorious, and you queue again, and you just keep doing it, and you get lots and lots of honor for it. So there's obviously something different quest. We get you some marks of honor, conquest, and honor. This is one of my favorite brawls, to be honest. It's just absolutely ridiculous on every level. And it's very hard to control what's going to happen because you don't know what mix of classes you're going to be up against, what mix of gear they're going to have. And 15 on 15 inside a very tight space means there's always someone taking a lot of damage from multiple people. So it's pretty crazy. But I would certainly recommend checking out Packed House if you can this week.
Yeah, and this is the first time Packed House has been around in a really long time. I think it's the first time we've seen it since like August or something. I think it was sort of a victim of when Comp Stomp got kind of messed up and the whole schedule got reset and kind of paused. So yeah, we haven't seen Packed House in a while, and yeah, it is one of the wackier brawls. It's super fun. There's not a lot of technique involved here. There's not supposed to be that many players in an arena, so stuff just gets out of control really fast.
Yeah, really fast.
Really, really fast games and everything. So, and it's kind of just a dice roll. You know what I mean? Like if you're trying to just get something different done really quick, like there's things you could do obviously to give yourself and your team an advantage, but there's no like meta how to be good at this. You have no idea what you're going to be queuing in with or into, and then the timer counts down and everything just explodes. So it's fun. I think for a brawl that isn't like a totally new gameplay mode or concept, I think this is one of the better ones. This just takes sort of a familiar concept and just blows it up. And I always had fun with it.
Yeah, I definitely think it's one that's worth checking out. All right, our Star the Hibernator is the big old bear in the Emerald Dream that you can knock down for some 441 loot if you're looking to do that. The Mythic Plus affixes for the week are Fortified, Volcanic, and Spiteful. This means that non-boss enemies have 20% more health and deal increased damage. While in combat, enemies periodically cause gouts of flame to erupt beneath the feet of distant players. And fiends rise from the corpses of non-boss enemies and pursue random players. Fortified, Spiteful. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Fortified, obviously, means slower trash that you're going to have to deal with for longer. More trash, being alive longer means that you're going to have more people being targeted by Volcanic more often. So just your range classes need to be a little bit more alert about shifting their feet. Spiteful means that you're locked in combat at the end of killing off a trash pack because a bunch of Spiteful ads spawn. They are not affected by Fortified because their health decreases by a percentage. So yes, if you're trying to beat them up and kill them quickly, it might take a slightly longer, but in general, their health will chunk down on its own. So there isn't really something very synchronous other than, hey, trash is going to live longer, which means you have to deal with Volcanic longer. This is probably one of the better Fortified weeks. Spiteful is going to be a bit of a pain, obviously. It is going to be something that inside a tight corridor, someone's going to get meleeed. If they hit you multiple times, they can kill you. So you have to be aware of that. You got your Throne of Tides, where there's some pulls that can get way out of control, and you get a whole bunch of Spiteful ads, and you're inside a tight room with other trash around you, and it's a little bit tricky to deal with. So you do want to bring your slows and your grips and your vortexes and your roots and, all those sorts of things with you to try and deal with that kind of tight corridor aspect to it. I feel like a place like Waycrest Manor, even though it has tight hallways, isn't going to be terrible to deal with when it comes to Spiteful, because you don't often have trash with more trash like 5 or 8 yards out from it inside of that space. It's typically like a trash pack, and then there's 15, 20 yards in a trash pack. Whereas that's why I sort of highlighted Throne of the Tides. I do feel like there's a couple of rooms, those round rooms that have like 4 different trash packs in them plus a patrol, where you can get into some trouble with, having killed a pack and having people getting chased by stuff and not running into another pull and pulling another pull onto your group by accident as they're trying to dodge or move away from their Spiteful ad. But what do you think about this week, Jason?
A bit of a mixed bag this week, I would say. If you're doing lower keys, it's great because it's fortified and volcanic is basically free. So if you're, in those like 7, 8 range keys, 10, whatever, you're kind of working your way up, like those keys are going to be feeling really good, I think. Volcanic isn't even like damaging, it's just disruptive. So you will have to deal with it on bosses, but you can bait it, especially if you have, a ranged player who can kind of just stand out there and, okay, they're going to be the target and the volcanics are going to be in a low traffic area. Spiteful is a drag. Like, it really just adds so much time to the dungeon. And it's obnoxious, it's not super interactive. There's not that much counterplay. Like, you can reposition and root them or typhoon them away or something, or you can use CC on them to get that timer going and get away from them, and you can save yourself some time that way. But it does lock you into combat for the duration. You can't drink. There's certain things that may need to trigger in a dungeon that aren't going to trigger because you haven't left combat yet. Like, you can chain pull and stuff, I guess, this week, because you can move away from the Spitefuls towards the next pack, and it doesn't really matter if stuff dies at different times, versus something like bolstering, for example, where you kind of want to get everything super low first. Like, if you have a ghost out and it's fixated on one person, then that one person can figure it out, and you can keep chunking through the trash. Spiteful just... anything that holds you in combat, I think, just feels so bad. At least it doesn't have any bad interaction with Volcanic, really. I mean, I guess if the ghosts are Volcanic targets, then if a ghost gets far away from you, then you could get a Volcanic off of it, even if you're in like melee range of the stuff that is alive. But again, Volcanic is not some big deal. It doesn't require a lot of attention. You just slide out of it. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think for low keys is going to be great. And as you start getting up there, it's just, if you're kind of pushing the limits for what your group can handle in terms of throughput, Spiteful's really going to mess up your timer. I think it's the big problem. It's going to, like, for those dungeons where the timer's kind of tight and you don't have a lot of wiggle room, Spiteful is going to eat up your trash budget so much. So you're going to have to pull a little uncomfortably or chain pull a bit to kind of make some of that up, and try to use smart positioning so you're not like dumping DPS throughput into the ghosts if you can move away from them and go across the courtyard and into the next pack or whatever. Just some things to keep in mind. I don't love this combo, but I don't think it's that bad. It just kind of depends on what your goals are. If your goals are like to time stuff in the mid and upper 20s, you might have some timer issues this week because of that, right? Like, just the amount of time you're going to spend on trash is really you're gonna butt up against that timer.
Yeah, particularly, and this is, again, what we like to highlight every week, is what compositions can create the problems for you. Any class, like Rogue, for example, that benefits from having a chance to drop out of combat, stealth, and then get an opener again to increase their damage overall in the next pull, suffers, right? Because most likely they're not going to have those windows where they're out of combat unless there's an intentional time to stop and create that opportunity. So I think in general that just causes there to be, a little bit more of a slowdown on a group. And anyone who needs that out of combat reset time, I think is in for a bit of a pain in the butt for this week. So we'll see what happens with that. Okay. Lunar Festival has kicked off, and so has Darkmoon Fair. Darkmoon Fair is going to run until the 10th of February, so you want to be sure that you are taking advantage of that extra reputation bonus while it is around. There is one thing inside of the journal for this month about Darkmoon Faire, and it's playing 5 arcade games. You can get yourself some points for doing that. It's super easy to do. You literally just go past, like, just take a left before the roller coaster, and you walk over to the arcade area, and there they have, like, the matchmaking game from Battle for Azeroth that you can play. They have the untangling wires that you can play as well. They have the Minesweeper game, but I think it's primarily the untangling wires. It's the tracking the barrel. One barrel light up and then move around, and you got to find the barrel. It's that one, the wires, and the first one was I mentioned. I don't know how I blanked on that, but those 3 are the 3 that you want to do. Oh, it's the matchmaking. That was it. Are the 3 that you can do, and if you do that 5 times, so if you're willing to do 5 matchmaking games, you get yourself some points. So it's a super easy way to get some points for that log for the month. If that's something you're looking to do, it's pretty easy to log in, hop over to Darkmoon Faire, and get that done. Lunar Festival, on the other hand, is running until the 17th, so it's running an additional week past Darkmoon Faire. And this is where you're going to find some new stuff, all right? There is the Winding Slitherdrake Lunar Festival armor. It is 50,000 gold, and you basically just walk up to a vendor and buy it. There's no, like, special unlock needed or anything like that, and you can get yourself that armor, which is pretty cool, if that's something you're looking to get. I like lunar-themed stuff as a Night Elf playing character. I think it's very fun to get some lunar-themed stuff, so that makes me happy. And the Slither Drake is one of the nice drakes for racing because it is a smaller drake. So it's one that you can, in fact, enjoy that armor on a little bit more often. The coins themselves for honoring the ancestors are all still the same as they were, except obviously there's new elders in Dragon Isles, which you can go and honor. Honoring the elders is something that gets you a lot of currency as well towards that traveler's currency that you need. So feel free to do a whole bunch of Lunar Festival stuff this month because you'll get a whole bunch of it. But otherwise, like, the pets are still the Lunar Festival Lantern for the Alliance and the Festival Lantern for the Horde. The toys are still the dragon costume, which is probably one of the highlights. If you don't have a dragon costume yet, you really do need to get the dragon costume together so you can play either the butt, the head, or the middle body and run around in your raid. It's really fun. It's certainly worthwhile doing as a group, so definitely pick that up. There's also the Lunar Elders Hearthstone, if you haven't gotten that yet, as well as the Everlasting Firework for both Alliance and Horde. And then there's some transmog stuff, right? You got your festival dresses and pantsuits and your crowns and the lunar preservation flower crown. That thing's transmoggable right now, so it's something that is something that you can get. The quest for the lunar preservation allows the flower crowns to be transmoggable all year. So if that's something you want to get, you can. And then we have to mention it because it was a thing they chose to do. If you're someone who's Venthyr and you want to go back and get yourself some reputation with your Ember Court, you can do that. Obviously, it's during events like this that you get the bonus 300% increased reputation gain. So go back to your Venthyr Covenant and get some stuff if that's something you're wanting to do. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, I mean, you got new elders to honor, which means more currency, which means it's easier to actually buy all the stuff that you want to buy. And then the 50k for the Winding Slither Drake armor. I kind of wish, and Jason, you can pipe in on this, that the armor was something you bought with Lunar Festival tokens. It feels weird to just be like, it's 50,000 gold. That just feels odd to me, attaching it to this.
It kind of does. Yeah, it kind of does. Because it's like, I have no real pull to participate in this. I think I have everything else, or I have everything else I care about. I echo the thing about the dragon costume. It's a must. You have to have the dragon costume toys. So if you don't have them, make sure that you do that, because they're awesome and they're fun to mess with, when you're in a raid or whatever and you're waiting for something to happen. There's actually another gold sync too that I didn't put in here because it's a little weird, but there's like you could contribute daily to like the artisans, and if you contribute 100,000 gold over the course of the event or something, you get a feat of strength. You get absolutely nothing for this gold sync, like the tangible. You don't get a title, you don't get something on your character, no mog, and then it's just this. This is like not a huge gold sync, but 50k is a substantial amount of gold still, I would say. Yep. And yeah, you don't have to participate in the event; you just have to go buy it from the vendor. Lunarfest has always kind of been a weird event, though. It doesn't have a whole lot to it. When they went back and added the toys and the like the lantern pets and stuff, that was like the biggest update it ever really got.
I like that. One of the biggest things that they did with that is added the lantern that let you turn rocks into beams that shot down from the sky on people. So you get the little lantern beams, and I remember people using those in raid all the time because we didn't have raid markers back then, so you could actually use the beams to do raid marking, which was hilarious. Which may have been where the raid markers came from. FYI, was people doing that, but it was one of those cases to me of like that was super useful. But yeah, since then we have not seen, like, I expected there to be a lot. I'm just honest, like I expected there to be a lot more to this, and that they would tie something like the armor into rewards so that people were going out and getting like 250 tokens from honoring the elders, and maybe that was all the reward they could afford this year is buying that armor, right? So people inside our case who have been doing Lunarfest for a decade, who have been done and had every reward for quite a long time now, are like, oh hey, here's something actually new for me to go around and honor the elders and actually get done, right? Like it's unfortunate that Trader's Tender is really the only reason for me to go around and honor elders, right? That seems unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I guess I can't complain about it though, because I'll probably buy the Drake armor because I think it's cool and I like the Winding Slither Drake, and 50k is a lot, but it's not really that much in the grand scheme. So it's like worth it. And then I don't have to actually spend any time on this, which is kind of cool. I don't really want to grind Lunarfest to buy it. So it is just weird though, that the event, there's just not that much to it. It's a very long running holiday in the game, but it's never really been super interactive. It is good if you want to level up a character, if you're doing like pacifist or something, if anybody's still doing stuff like that. I don't know. It could be that having like official support for hardcore and stuff has killed people's interest in doing those weird kind of level up challenges. But if you are doing pacifist, then you can get a ton of XP from talking to the elders all over the planet and getting all those turn-ins and stuff, and it doesn't involve any combat, so that's that's a thing. But yeah, overall, I don't think I'll be doing too much with this, but I will probably end up buying the Drake armor.
Yeah, I already bought it. Like it was a no-brainer for me. It's very cool looking. I do wish that it was silver, not gold, because it's lunar. That just is how I feel. But I do like that it how it looks and what they sort of did with it. It adds like fur to the face of your Drake, and it looks very cool. I dig it, so that's something I wanted. All right, Love is in the Air. It is also going live tomorrow, so it'll be something everyone can jump into. It's going to be going until February 19th, and you basically are able to go around and get Valentines and do a bunch of questing as far as that goes. But the new stuff for this year is the Gala of Gifts, which is outside Stormwind and Orgrimmar, where there's a new mount. It's the Heartseeker Mana Ray, which I think is very fitting because mana rays are already kind of heart-shaped to begin with, so making one a Heartseeker makes sense. That's going to cost 270 of the currency, and then there's also the new pet, the Heartseeker Moth, again, something that's a little bit heart-shaped, so I think that's also very fitting. That's going to cost 40, and then there's some new toys for people to check out. The Date Simulation Modulator, where you place down a date simulation modulator, which is going to sit there for 2 hours, and that allows you to view the world from a different perspective. I don't really know what that means. I haven't looked this up. Jason, did you look at this thing up at all?
I didn't, and I don't have it or anything. So I assume it's one of those like basically like filters that applies to your game world, so it looks different. So
I guess so.
That's what it sounds like from the description, but I haven't. Obviously, I don't have it yet. I think the event is just about to go live in North America as we're recording this. I haven't had time to grind it out, obviously, and I didn't look anything up with like PTR footage of it or whatever. But it seems like one of those transform the world kind of toys.
Yep. And then there's also a cloaking device attached to the machine that only members of your party and raid can see the machine and its effects. So that's something to be used. It can only be used outside. That's another thing on there. And there's a 2-hour cooldown. So it's up for 2 hours, and there's a 2-hour cooldown, so you can use this thing constantly. This is one of those things where I'm like, how many of these am I going to just find sitting out in the world? The answer is none, because fortunately they threw that cloaking device on it. So what I think that actually means is, hey, we're not going to worry about someone essentially creating a raid group, an entire raid of people drop this thing constantly, and then everyone else thinks it's funny, so they drop theirs, and there's thousands of them in Stormwind, and the entire server crashes. Because they're essentially all going to be phased to your phase, I think, is what's going to end up happening, or only you can see it. So that is a smart move. Good job on that one. The Exquisite Love Boat is something else that you'll be able to get for 270 tokens. This summons your Exquisite Love Boat on the water surface within 20 yards, and there's a cooldown during Love is in the Air of 30 minutes, so keep that in mind. I assume you can probably only use it during Love is in the Air as well. You share a stylish cruise with someone who you want to, and it comfortably seats up to 4. So apparently you can double date on this thing if you're looking for it. So yeah, that's another thing that they threw in there. Last but not least is the Eyes for You Only. It's a 40 cost, and essentially you tune out non-party members, which I'm hoping basically means that you literally use this. There's a 30-minute cooldown on it, and everyone except people in your party vanishes from your screen. I think that would be a really cool toy if that's what this is. So yeah, it'll be fun to check out. I can imagine this being hyper useful if it's not locked to Love is in the Air to use while leveling. And there's all those like thousands of people standing around a quest NPC, and you essentially go, I'm going to use this thing, and everyone's going to disappear, and I can just use the quest NPC. I'm hoping.
That'd be nice.
I'm hoping. So we'll have to see what they choose to do with this, but those are the new toys for people to check out this year. There is also a new Drake manuscript. The Love Armor is going to be available for the Proto Drake, which I cannot imagine choosing the roughest looking, ugliest Drake as far as, just like primordial Drake and being like, Love Armor, let's just attach that on there. This thing's going to be a sweet, cuddly thing. So that's something you can look forward to as well. There's new quests for you to go and grab as well. So you'll find those too. And there's some new transmog. There's the Eternal Yellow, White, Pink, Orange, Blue, and Black roses that you'll be able to get for whatever rose recolors you want to have. For making sure you're representing whatever the relationship is that you're holding this rose out to for the person you're holding it out to. As well as a scenic gateway portal. You can teleport from Veldraken to the Gala of Gifts, a romantic hideout in Val'Sharah, the thrilling peaks in Jade Forest, a relaxing wade into the waters of the hot springs in Winterspring, and the lovely lakeside in Northern Stranglethorn. This is probably my favorite idea that they threw into this whole event. I love the concept of adding in-game teleports for this event, and the concept is that you're teleporting to date locations. I think this is hilarious and fun, and people will use them for doing other things in the game, and it's just convenient in general. But I will absolutely check out where the thrilling peaks of the Jade Forest are, and check out where the hot springs and Winterspring are that they teleport you to, and just how much they've decorated them. Because I have to imagine if there's a romantic hideout in Val'Sharah, they've probably put down like a picnic blanket and set up stuff, and like I'm imagining that's what they did. So I think this is a nice touch. I'm not a huge big Valentine's Day person, as far as like, oh my goodness, this has to be like a really big special deal every year. But I love that they're adding these things in because it's just fun. Like, this is just fun. Who can be angry at this? It's just fun. So glad to see it.
Yeah, big updates for Love is in the Air this year, and a lot of ammunition for RPers. If you want to RP around, I don't know, like some kind of romance angle or something. I mean, there's so much here. With all the new toys, mogs, the scenic getaway portal, all that stuff. It's a lot. I mean, there's a ton of new stuff in here this year, in addition to the stuff we already had. I mean, there was already a bunch of collectibles and stuff from this holiday, but it's got a pretty big update. I mean, I think of the ones we've seen, this seems to be one of the bigger ones so far. Granted, we haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I'll probably check it out later today. I don't know. I mean, I'll probably at least try to, depending on what kind of yield we're talking about for the tokens, like, I kind of at least want the new toys, because toys are, to me, they're the most fun thing to collect. They have the most unique effects, and they're some of the coolest items they make in the game. So those are sort of on my list. I'll do the event boss every day and try to get the Drake armor and the mount. We'll see how that goes. But I don't really... I think I care about the Drake armor more than the mount. You make a good point about putting the Drake armor on the Proto Drake, but I mean, they need love too.
No, I just think it's a hilarious thing to take a creature that in general in the game is this really rough around the edge, vicious looking like monster of a dragon, and be like, yeah, it's going to be cute and sweet, have love armor on it, and it's all good. I just think that's hilarious.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna hop in there and do this stuff this week. I think there's enough new here that I want to check it out, and I want to try to collect at least some of this stuff, even if not everything. I mean, there's so much new stuff here that I doubt they're gonna give you enough tokens with the daily quests and whatever to buy this out. I mean, you got over 300 tokens just for the vendor mountain pet, right? And then the toys are what also over 300. So you're already over 600 tokens just for those items.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of daily yield we're looking at,
Because it's the new quest, so it's hard to know.
Yeah. Like I don't know, but that to me, that just seems like a big number for one character to hit from doing this every day for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I don't really know if I want to do it on more than one character, but maybe, sometimes those like the one-off quests or whatever at the outset, like if that's enough to get you to one of the items that costs like 100 tokens or something, or get pretty close to it, then it's not too bad to do an alt for like 2 days or 3 days, just to check some stuff off.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll get in later today and tomorrow and see how it's feeling and what the real economy of this is looking like.
Yeah.
None of this stuff like aesthetically speaks to me all that much where it's like, oh, I really want that, like the mount or whatever. It's fine. It's cool, but it's not really stuff I would probably use. But collecting it is, to me, that's always the fun part.
Yeah. Yeah, I think completing the collection is fun. For me, I just want to test out things like the glasses that make everyone but your party members disappear to see if it does in fact work the way that I'm hoping it works, which is like this will be a game changer for people to use at expansion launches and patch launches where you're like, I just want to get to that NPC to do a quest and I can't see that NPC. They're buried in so much stuff. And you're like, oh, I'll just use my glasses. And suddenly it's like, oh, everyone vanished. I can see the NPC. Or does it make the NPC disappear? That would be a big problem. If using these things make NPCs disappear, I get it that's the concept behind it, but that would be a larger problem. So I want to get them and test them out,
That sort of reduces any potential usefulness, that just makes it straight up for like, okay, I want this for screenshots or whatever,
Yeah.
But which is fine. I think it's a cool thing to have either way, but we just haven't had a chance to play with it yet.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be fun to check into. All right, so before we jump into hotfix and stuff, I actually want to jump to the what's in the trading post going on right now, because there's a lot of its love is in the air theme. So while we're on that topic, let's actually check that out. So again, the trading post is offering anniversary stuff. This is something we talked about at the end of last month because we knew stuff was coming up. So there is a way to earn an additional 500 tender this month. You can also buy the Mannequin's Charm toy, which basically puts down a mannequin for your character, or womakin, as I think is the other thing that they quoted inside of their tweet that they put out. As well as the X-53 rocket, the two-person rocket, is another thing you can buy. So I scooped both those up immediately when this went live, just to make sure I had those. And then I picked up, I still had the troll back piece from last month saved, so I went and bought that right away too. So that's all scooped up. And then there's a few more things I'm going to pick up out of there from this month, including that little bug, because I like collecting pets. But there's a commemorative 1 year anniversary. It's been a year since Tawny and Wilder and then Shiri trading posts open their doors. To commemorate the occasion, visit their festively decorated stalls where you'll find 2 special items. There's the mannequin and the touring rocket for you to pick up. Then there's the extra 500 tender that you get. And then there's a couple of extra ways to earn tender as well by like thanking them or /loving them or whatever it is inside of your traveler's journals. There's a lot of things you can do to earn a little bit of extra tender to sort of help you finish that up for the month. It's definitely worth checking out. Now, they also have the ride to the final surge to the finish. So this month, new activities are available to help players catch up their activity bar. These events will begin 1 week before the end of the month. That's the usual surge, but there's just more items in the surge this month to help people obviously get the additional 500 done. As far as what's actually in the place, though, this is like a pretty love is in the air theme month. All right, so you got Nelly, which is like a normal red bug. You got Bugsy, which is the pink love bug. You got the fur end ship fox, which is the pink flying fox that you can ride around. You got all the corsages came back. They'd been away for a little bit and they all came back. Lots of cloaks and gloves and that kind of stuff that you can imagine that you'd get. The battle wraps of the honored Valajar. So there's Valajar themed red and silver armor, which does look pretty cool. Although I think it's hilarious they threw it on a Night Elf female. It does not look nearly as cool on a Night Elf female as it does on some bulkier characters. But that was their decision as to what they chose to do. Weapon-wise, there's a whole bunch of love-themed weapons. So there's like a Love's Bulwark, which is a shield with a heart on it, and some pink axes, and a Love's Witchy Rose Wand, which is a wand that, looks like a sort of like a anime-style Sailor Moon wand. There's also a staff that's similar to that. The Fluorescent Split Blade, which is a sword, two-handed sword, which has two major blades that stick out of it that do not actually connect. They're two, as you would imagine, twin sort of split blades, twin blades. But the hilt as well is two blades that are split in the opposite angle. So it's actually kind of cool looking. It's the pink on it's not my favorite aspect of it, but it's certainly a cool looking weapon that they can do more with in the future. They've got a couple of bows that are themed around it. One of them is very Sylvanas, the Gothic longbow, sort of Sylvanas themed Love is in the Air bow. We saw the Ruby Fellfire Bulwark come back, as well as the Spite Blade that came with it. And this month's reward, the actual final month's reward, is the Love Witch's attire, which goes along with that wand I talked about earlier, the very Sailor Moon-esque wand. And there's been some controversy, as we always see with this sort of stuff, online, of people not approving of this outfit. I mean, what it comes down to for me is, like, if you want to dress your character a certain way, dress your character a certain way. My only thing that turns me off of this attire and this outfit is that it just doesn't fit in my World of Warcraft universe when it comes to how I see Warcraft. Same way as in Legion, traveling into space and going to another planet was too much sci-fi in my thing. This is just more anime that I'm used to having inside of my, like, World of Warcraft universe. But that's just me. And, I didn't go out on the internet and, like, yell at people and talk to people about it. That's not what I'm doing. It's just why I'm not super excited about this end of month reward. It's just not that I'd be more interested in the thing behind this person, which is an umbrella with hearts on it and a picnic setup. That to me would be a cooler thing, because I like the umbrella sort of dating setup stuff that we already have in the game. So, that to me, more things like that are more interesting than a full-on dress-up anime outfit. It's just like, okay, sure, that pleases people, that's cool. It's just not my thing. There's a lot of different sort of options out there for people, but yeah, you can certainly enjoy this if that's your cup of tea.
Yeah, I'm going to be saving a lot of tender this month, I think. I did buy the Mannequin Charm toy and the Touring Rocket, like, right. You have to, right? They're just no brainers. Like a unique toy for 10 tender, like, you just buy that. You don't think about it. And a passenger mount for 100 tender that has been in the game for a long time, but I guess, like, you've been able to get it for years now. So that's, whatever, for 110 total tender, like, yeah, I'll take both. None of the other stuff really speaks to me. The Valajar armor is kind of cool, but it's leather, which is weird. It doesn't look like it should be. Well, I guess, I don't know. But so that kind of limits its usefulness to me. I might buy it anyway just because it's a cool look, and it's not that expensive for a full set. I feel like 600 tender for a full set of armor is a fair shake. And yeah, the bonus reward this month it's not really something I care to use on any of my characters, but hey, it's better than a wristwatch, right? It's a full MOG set.
Yep. It's certainly more set, value. So, yeah, it's more value than a wristwatch. Yeah,
I like that better. But yeah, I'm not going to be diving too much into trading post purchases this month. I do not think. I mean, none of this stuff really fits the aesthetic of my characters or anything. I do think it's funny how, like, man, trading post is such a flashpoint in the community. I feel like, people get so they get so upset or so wound up about cosmetics that the game gives you for free. Like, you don't really have to do much to get these except stay sub to the game and play it a bit. And they don't give you any benefit in any gameplay mode at all, except for maybe Trial of Style. Yeah, and you don't have to use them if you don't want them or like them. But I feel like every month or every other month there's some controversy about what's on offer at the trading post, and maybe that's just a sign that there's not that much else to complain about in WoW at the moment, or maybe it's just because people are kind of checked out of what there is to do in WoW, so trading post is just like the only thing that they're thinking about. I don't know. It could be one or the other, or neither, but I don't know. I mean, I guess the only thing I would say is having a whole month that's really tightly themed around one thing is not maybe my preference. I'd like some variety. You know what I mean? Almost everything this month kind of fits that love is in the air, Valentine's Day kind of theme.
Yeah.
And it's cool to have a bunch of stuff like that that's themed around like a real world event and an in-game holiday, but having basically the whole trading post inventory themed around is maybe a little too much for people that don't connect with it, but
yeah.
It's still a relatively new feature. So I know there's a bunch of stuff they probably want to try out with it and stuff that they want to introduce, like different items they want to introduce through the trading post. So, maybe going forward, we'll see a little bit less of that. Like, I think it's cool to have some items that tie really heavily into real world or in-game holidays, but not the whole inventory.
No, fair enough. I definitely hear that. And I think that's probably why having the feature of this is what we're bringing back this month for you to purchase from is always a nice thing to have, because at least that is never attached to what's going on with the holidays and whatnot that are happening. All right, hot fixes for this week. Mage, you got yourself a fix that reminded me of a paladin ability long ago. Shifting powers visual will now appear smaller and be less disruptive for the mage's allies. Yeah, there was a paladin ability a little while back that was like a flashbang going off whenever they cast it that blinded your entire raid team. Those were terrible. I'm very glad the Blizzard is aware of when spell effects are doing things like this and reducing them or removing them or changing them so that they no longer cause everyone to be blind, because that's never fun when you're playing a game and you're trying to do mechanics and someone's like, I'm going to use my button, click, blam. Oh, no one can see. I just walked off the cliff. You're like, yes, yeah, okay. Not exactly what you want to have happen in a raid. So yeah, glad to see that change.
Yeah, I don't know if I am aware of what this looked like before the change. Although I saw some other people in my team like commenting about it, about like one of our mages. So maybe it just wasn't like as pronounced, or I just didn't catch it like in raid groups, but maybe in the dungeon group it was more overpowered. Yeah, it's like I can't see it through the boss most of the time, you know, but yeah, like I guess that's the line you have to walk, right? You want the VFX to be cool and flashy and make the game look cool, but you don't want them to disrupt people from playing together either.
There was nothing like having 2 or 3 paladins in a raid group and just like flash. Like, oh my god, yeah. I can't see what's happening.
I remember those days. Yeah, that was one of the loud. That might have been the loudest one ever. I can't remember what the spell was called, but
I'm trying to remember it too. But.
Yeah, that was rather pronounced.
It was, yes.
I guess this wasn't as bad. Or, I don't know. I didn't really catch it specifically, but I'm glad they toned it down. It should look cool for the player, but not for everybody else.
I mean, it should look cool for everyone else too. It just shouldn't be that impactful that you're like, oh, that mage is casting spells because I can't see anything else on the screen at the moment. All right, other hot fixes. Farak on Mythic got some changes that came in here. The flame-bound and shadow-bound auras are no longer private auras, which means they're accessed and viewed a little bit differently. Apparently, developer note on this is we've observed that the common strategy for players executing the flame-bound and shadow-bound mechanics on Mythic Farak involves cumbersome add-on and macro setups and execution. Our goal with this change is to remove this burden from players who are progressing on the encounter and refocus the challenge on the gameplay. So this is always one of those interesting notes to me, right? Because first of all, I'm like, great. I'm very glad that they've recognized that the way that everyone's doing this boss is if you're someone who's responsible for this mechanic, you have to get these add-ons and run this macro, and you have to do this particular thing this exact way to try and make it all work, and this is the smoothest way to do it. But my brain always goes to when I see this, like, how did you do this in-house, right? Like, I always think about, like, because they have an in-house raid team that tests raids and tests raid encounters, and how is it that they were able to go through and do this raid without macros, without add-ons, and do this mechanic if it's so cumbersome and a pain in the butt to deal with with add-ons and macros. Like with those things, it is still that level of cumbersome and difficult to deal with. So yeah, I always get curious about how mechanics like this get into the game, and what it was like for the team when they were doing testing in-house and what that sort of felt like. So anyways, I just wish there were more stories from that group and being like, hey, let's do a debrief on this boss. And this is what this boss was like for us when we were defeating it without any add-ons or anything else going on. And this is the strategies that we sort of went through, or release the video, like release the in-house video of them killing the boss with no add-ons or anything attached to it on Mythic, so people can watch it. Like, you know, when Hall of Fame closes, release that video from the team and be like, wow, this is their team doing it with no add-ons. This is crazy. Look what these people are doing. That would be neat, because otherwise you just kind of question if it exists. That's all. I'm just saying, you know?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I think this is a great change. You know, the high-end rating and add-on development community were like, please stop with the private auras. And Blizzard said, we're going to try it. And, I mean, you see what happened? Like, it creates a negative play experience. Like, if you're going to have stuff, if you're going to have mechanics that require private auras so that, like, weak auras can't hook into it, and then people can't make add-ons and weak auras around it specifically, then the mechanics have to read and be read well enough and be able to be executed without add-ons. And I don't think that they do that when it comes to stuff like this. I mean, we've talked a lot on the show about how Dragonflight has been a huge step forward in terms of encounter design. The raids feel so much better than Shadowlands. The bosses are fun, but they still are hanging on to stuff like this, and I think it's just wrong. I think you can make challenging bosses without relying on these kinds of tricks. In a lot of ways, if mechanics and UI support for the mechanics that's built into the game like read better, you wouldn't need weak auras and DBM for fights to begin with, right? Or at least not to the level that we need them at certain levels of rating in 2024. I feel like having the private auras on Farak, which is a design failure, I think removing them is correct. And I think the challenge for the encounter design team is to avoid, designing themselves into a corner where they need to rely on stuff like this to make a fight challenging, because they need to sort of hide behind this private aura that is going to be a software development challenge for add-on developers and weak aura authors to come up with workarounds so that teams can execute the mechanic. Like, just throw mechanics at us that we can execute. This is also sort of the arms race with the race to world first kind of stuff, and you're specifically designing this for a very small selection of teams and then hoping that, other teams catch on, or then you dial it back relatively quickly. I would love it if they would just stop with this kind of stuff from a design perspective. Make a cool fight, make it challenging, make it punishing, make the stuff that you need to pay attention to read well, and then you don't have to worry about setting up private auras on abilities to make them artificially even harder than they already are, So I don't know, maybe a lesson learned for the future for stuff like this.
It just screams to me of Lords of Dread, right? Because we had this huge conversation back in Shadowlands in Sepulchre about Lords of Dread and that fight, and it being one of those fights and one of those encounters where how did you expect a team that had no add-ons to be able to accomplish identifying which people were the ones that you had to DPS within the incredibly tight time frame, and that time frame got tighter based off difficulty, to be able to actually assess that before it wiped your raid. Like, if you failed it wiped your raid. And it was like, how are you expecting people to accomplish this? And they blocked 2 different add-ons that were helping people do it before people finally settled on a way that they could do it using add-ons still to figure out who was doing what. But it required a lot of communication through voice to be able to actually figure that stuff out and do it quickly. And on Mythic, when it was a very short timer, you really had to not get it wrong. Because if you killed someone too by DPSing the wrong person, it was still a wipe, because you couldn't lose people on that fight either. Like, it was just like yeah, I don't know. I had a big rant back then about, hey, if you're going to put mechanics like this into the game, you need to put in UI support, UI element support that allows people to do the mechanics with what you're giving them, right? If you are going to put a boss in the game that is that strictly mechanically speaking unforgiving, then you need to put in the tools to be able to accomplish that boss. Otherwise, people are going to keep creating tools and trying to find ways to do it. And it's where I then question, just like I questioned about this, how did your in-house team manage to do this? What were they doing that allowed them to accomplish this on the mythic difficulty with the timers and the DPS checks and the unforgiving aspect of the elements that you had going on? Because in a lot of cases, no other team on the planet has done that. So it'd be interesting to see, right? Like, so I'm hoping that the UI team behind Blizzard, as we continue to progress into these future raids, gets better and better at putting together elements for people to accomplish the mechanics that the mechanic and encounter design people are putting together, and that the encounter design people are thinking of that as they design mechanics. How is this best executed? Like I remember for that the bosses back in Sepulchre, I had like a whole idea of what they could have designed and done for the layout of the UI to make this actually happen and work and be good, but they didn't put the time into doing it. Their time went elsewhere. So it's like, okay, if you're going to design bosses like this, you need to allocate the time so that people aren't required, basically, to use add-ons to be able to accomplish this encounter in any kind of reasonable time frame. And I can say that because teams are still working on this boss. This boss has been out for months, and there's people who have hundreds of pulls on this boss. And I can tell you, the people designing the encounter do not want people to spend 450 pulls on Farak. They did not design the boss to be that. They don't want anyone to experience that. That's not what they consider to be fun. So I'm sure they are disappointed, which is why we see nerfs like this coming in when they see these numbers happening, right? That's why they make the adjustments they did. Like, Sepulchre was such a big learning lesson for Blizzard's whole team, because they really did recognize, like, it was never our intention for it to be this punishing. Like, they wanted to be punishing, but they recognized the mistake that they made by doing that. Like, the player base, like, as an example, I'm a great example of that. I'm done with raiding for a little while. Like, after that raid tier, I was just like, you completely burned me out, and I don't trust you anymore with what your encounter design is. So I'm backing off for a bit, right? So I'm going to come back next expansion. I'm going to raid. It's going to be fun, and I'm going to enjoy doing it. I might dabble a little bit more into raiding in the last chunk when we bring all the raids back for this expansion, to sort of go through that. But when it comes down to it, like, they make mistakes like this too often, in my opinion, when it comes to designing UI elements like this. So I'm hoping we see this start to go away a little bit more. All right, more hot fixes. The Atal Dazar, they address an issue where the Razan encounter can unexpectedly reset. This has happened numerous times to me, so I'm very glad that they address whatever this issue is, because I've definitely been like bringing him around the arena as he chased me, and then he just walked into something and vanished. And I was like, well, that was great. Okay, I guess we have to start over. And people used heroism and blew their cooldowns, and now we don't have those, so now this fight's going to take a lot longer, and it's a huge pain. So glad they adjust that. They also addressed an issue where the visual for Spark of Tear does not snap to the ground. It shouldn't have floating sparks of tear out in the sky that then land on you and kill you. They also addressed an issue where Spark of Tear would immediately trigger if the target that it was cast on had immunity. So yeah, another nice thing. Not just having those pop immediately and having to have people not use immunities when they feel they need to use them, because they might wipe the group. So that's also a bad thing. When it comes to Everbloom, they address an issue where Witherbark can be pulled out of the encounter area. I don't know who all was doing a lot of this, but apparently, yeah, you could drag him out of the actual space that he was supposed to be in, which I guess also defeats the purpose, because then none of the water could ever get to him. That's a little weird. So I'm glad that got addressed. And they fixed an issue where the Archmage Soul can cast Cinderbolt Storm twice after gaining Fire Affinity. Yes, let's not have to dodge all of the stupid fire circles twice in a row and have the big explosion fire ring happen twice in a row. That's just not, no thanks. Let's avoid that. That's not fun. They also fixed an issue where the mages before Archmage Soul were not resetting their health after they left combat. I don't really know what that was actually affecting necessarily, but I guess it just came down to like, hey, if you wiped on those mages, you could kill them easier. But
yeah, this is a stealth buff to the dungeon difficulty. The pack right before Archmage Sol is horrendous. It got to be the hardest pack in there, and Everbloom I think I would say is still maybe the hardest dungeon in the pool. And yeah, the saving grace was like if you died, if you full wiped on that pack on board or whatever, then at least a couple of the mages would be pretty low health, so you could just kill them quickly. But yeah, you're not gonna be able to do that anymore. So yeah, that's a bug fix that results in sort of a difficulty buff to the overall dungeon. But do your best. And yeah, apparently what people were doing was just pulling Witherbark out of that arena and then just pulling him throughout the whole dungeon the whole time, because I guess he would like glitch out and not do any of his abilities or whatever. And so instead of standing there punching the boss down, you
occasionally throw cleave on him every now and then.
Yeah, you just walk him through, as you clear the rest of the dungeon or whatever. So I didn't do it. Somebody told me about it before this got fixed, and I was like, I don't want to try that. Let's just kill the boss.
That's where I'm. With those things, I'm always that guy. And I'd be Mythic Raid team. People would be like, hey, we have this great strat that we found out where if we all stand on top of this pillar and pull the boss, then the boss does this glitch and then they won't cast this ability the next time we pull them. And you're like, yeah, let's not do that. That sounds like something we can get banned for. Let's just because we know that's not intended. That's not intended. Let's be clear.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be walking the boss around. You're not taking the boss for a walk for its daily constitutional or whatever. So
it does raise the idea though for encounter design of going, hey, maybe there is a boss that we should design that follows you through the entire dungeon and you just kind of chip away at it as you're doing other things, and it's like that boulder rolling behind Indiana Jones kind of concept. Would be a neat idea for an encounter for
that could be really cool actually.
Yeah.
Maybe not, I don't know if that'd be like a fun keystone, but hey, you know what? If they nail the design, it could be really cool. Like it's a cool concept, but anyway, you're not going to be doing that with Witherbark or Witherbark anymore. So that's that. Yeah, I do feel like Everbloom needs a little bit of a tuning pass still. It just feels a lot harder than most of the rest of the pool. And I think these fixes actually, well, I mean, the one that Cinderbolt Storm can't cast twice in a row, that's good, because that's really bad if that happens. So I guess it kind of comes out in the wash. I mean, Archmage Sol is just a sneaky hard part of the dungeon, and it's right after you came through that whole long trash section with the berserkers and all that crap, and then the council boss that can be really stressful, and you're like, okay. But there's no ramping down from there, because then the mage trash is horrendous and Archmage is really hard, and then you go straight into the last boss, which is pretty hard. So I would love to see that get touched up just a bit, and these changes are kind of a mixed bag in terms of the overall difficulty of the plays.
Yeah. All right. Next little news story, Emir Drasil's Hall of Fame has officially closed. So after 83 days of this raid being out, it is now finally closed. It has been almost 3 months full of days that teams have been working on this place on Mythic, and it has finally closed out the Hall of Fame. And I would have to assume this means we're going to see another passive nerfs and stuff happen, maybe not this week, but next week, as far as what they might be doing with things like that. It also means, hey, tonight's probably the last night for you to try and get, your Hall of Fame title stuff and all that kind of fun stuff. So be sure that you're trying to knock that out this evening, because otherwise tomorrow it probably goes away, and we'll have to see what happens next. But yeah, it's not the longest Hall of Fame that we've seen open, but it's certainly up there. I mean, 3 months is a long time for teams to be progressing on content. Like, if you picture the teams that are doing Mythic are doing over 20 hours of this thing a week, in most cases, 16 to 20 hours for most of these teams. And for them to be doing that every week for 3 months is a lot of time commitment. So just factor that in there for difficulty concerns and that kind of stuff. I do think that there's probably a sweeter spot around that Hall of Fame closing after 60 days mark that is probably a much healthier number to aim for. So I don't know. I don't know how you manage to accomplish that, because the Horde Hall of Fame closes in that 40 to 60 day range. So the fact that the Alliance one stays open for so long speaks to the, amount of Mythic Raiders and amount of teams raiding on Alliance side. But I do think that there needs to be something done to not make this take 83 days for, essentially 200 teams to kill this thing on Mythic when it comes to the two different factions. Now, obviously, that's, an exaggeration, because there's probably been 350 or 400 teams that have killed it on Horde side by the time Alliance fills their first top 100 thing. So just something to keep in mind But yeah, 83 days, man. It's closed now, and we might see some nerfs.
I hope so. I would love to see a tuning pass now that we're really getting into the Emergence is getting a bit long in the tooth now. Yeah,
Yep.
now it's been about 3 months since it came out. It's not quite yet, but pretty close. I do have some cross realm people who I haven't been able to bring to Mythic as my sort of roster has,
Dwindled.
depleted a little bit. So that might help if people are still interested. I guess this is also probably the last time we'll ever have to deal with this, right? Because you figure in season 4 of Dragonflight, there is not going to be Hall of Fames and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we should just have Cross Realm Mythic from the jump as soon as season 4 rating starts. And with all the changes coming in with 11.0 and War Within, it should be. I mean, if you have cross realm guilds, then it would be reasonable to think that cross realm Mythic rating will be available from day one of a raid opening.
Yeah.
So that's a big win. We just had to get over this particular weird hump. This feels really weird with where we're going, that this was still a thing, but it was. And yeah, I would love to see. We don't have any information right now as we record, so maybe we'll see something come in tonight. We'll have to check the blog and see if we get some tuning changes come through. But I would love it. I mean, I don't really think Heroic Emir Drizzle needs to be touched up at all, really, but I would certainly not complain. The longer we get into farm, the less friction that you want to have, and you want to be able to bring people who haven't been playing the whole time or maybe aren't really your core heroic raiders, or people want to bring alts or whatever, and you don't want to up that time commitment for the clear, so hopefully we'll see some decent changes come through with tuning this week.
Yeah, as we think back on the Wrath of the Lich King days where they just made your character get progressively stronger every single week, so you could in fact have a situation where you brought in a character that was under geared for week 1, but on week 10 was fine and didn't slow anyone down at all, and was, your whole team just sort of, because everyone had gotten 10% stronger, was just like, yeah, this is fine, we can carry 2 or 3 people and not even notice it as a team. Our boss kills are still actually getting faster, so this is not bad at all. Like that is what I think the ideal should be for, as raids get longer and longer in the tooth, is you should be creating the opportunities more and more for more people to sort of dive in and experience it and have fun with it. And the teams that wanted to get in there and farm ahead of time and get all the gear ahead of time, really, that's kind of the World of Warcraft way, is, hey, if you wait long enough, gear becomes easier to get. That's just how this game works. So I think that should work in raiding as well. All right, go inside of season 2 of Season of Discovery for phase 2. This is season 2, whatever you want to call it, is kicking off. Phase 2 of Season Discovery is going to involve leveling up to level 40. There's going to be a new 10-person double reset a week, every 3-day reset. Raid inside of Nomergon. It's going to be, obviously, it's located in Dunmoreau. I like that they include that in case people forgot where Nomergon was. But yeah, there's 6 bosses. It's a 10-person raid size. And basically, this includes one additional new boss that they're going to be putting in. Each of the 5 bosses have been redesigned to present new challenges within the raid dungeon. This dungeon will also introduce a new world buff that you'll be able to get, which I think makes sense a lot. And there will be a variety of new items and rewards, with even more epic rewards from additional sources beyond the last 2 bosses of the dungeon. There will also be a new class sets to acquire, and a quest and rewards adjusted for level 40 players. Players will be able to undertake a new profession quest chain leading to new materials to craft more powerful items. That's the epics, like we had the boots and gloves this past bit. As a compromise for both leading edge players as well as casual players, the raid dungeon will become available with the launch of Season Discovery Phase 2, but there will be 2 lockouts on the normal weekly lockout timer at the start of the phase. This means the first raid resets will occur on February 13th, and the second will occur on the 20th with the regular scheduled maintenance. This will allow leading edge players to get to level 40 and start their hunt in the raid right away, but also minimizes the number of lockouts missed for those who are a little bit slower when it comes to this kind of thing. So this was an interesting debate to me, right? Because it came up where people were like, Blizz actually put out a poll and said, hey, what do you guys want? Do you want a week off to actually level and do everything and then the raid starts? Or do you want the raid to start right away and you can get in there and start doing stuff right away? I was of the opinion of, I don't care, because I'm going to level the way I want to level, and I don't feel like missing lockouts for this raid is like a huge, ginormous, important. Like, we're going to be in phase 2 for 3 to 4 months. That's what we're looking at, most likely, right? This is not, hey, you've hit max level on an expansion. We're going to be in this for the next 8 to 10 months before the next thing comes out. You want to be as geared as possible because there's all these things you want to do that require this gear. Like, I did not find it difficult to find good gear out in the world outside of Raid for Season Discovery. And I think it'll be very similar this go around as well. So I'm good either way. I'm glad that they just settled on this so that everyone was just kind of happy, I guess, with what they wanted to do. Casual players probably were similar to me and just didn't care when they were going to get it. The leading edge, as they put it, players really wanted it immediately because they're going to try and level to level 40 in 2 days and be able to do the first raid lockout before it goes away. But yeah, we'll see what people choose to do. Either way, that is the initial blog post that they put out, but then they get into a little bit more nitty gritty here. But Jason, do you want to comment in on any of that?
Well, I'm just glad that they're still doing 10 player raid size.
Yeah.
That's huge. I'm surprised that it's 6 bosses. I kind of thought maybe they would. I mean, no more on such a huge space. I kind of thought maybe they would squeeze some more bosses in there or something. You know? But I mean, it seems like it's going to be in that same lane of a relatively chill raid. You know, if it's on a twice a week lockout, it's 10 player, it's 6 bosses. I mean, granted, you know, Nomragon is a way bigger interior space, and we might have, you know. Oh, there's a lot more trash in there. There's probably going to be the scripted events and all that stuff. So it might still be a bit longer than BFD once everybody knows what they're doing. But it seems pretty good. As far as the timing goes, like, it doesn't really affect me because I don't think I'll be raid ready the first week anyway. You know, I just don't have that kind of time to devote to the process. So I think regardless, I was going to miss it. And I don't know. I don't see this being like a big event that everybody's got to get geared up for, and then then they're gonna, you know, open the raid and everybody's gonna race or whatever. Like,
it's so much more relaxed. Yeah,
like people are just gonna clear this like immediately. It's not like some race to world first kind of like. Will there be some kind of cool prestige or feather in your cap for being like world first Season Discovery Nomer? Yeah. But it's not, you know, it's not like the level of a, you know, a new raid launching in retail or something. So I don't know. I feel like most people, like, obviously there are people who are really sweaty about Seasons of Discovery and they want to totally max out and do all the stuff, and that's cool. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but I think the appeal of it for a lot of people is that we could play it casually. We don't have to dump that kind of time in. We can raid log once we get to a certain point of character progression. Yeah. That's really appealing, and it seems like they're going to continue that kind of concept here in Phase 2, which I'm excited about. You know, at first we didn't know, is it going to be 10 players? Is it going to be, you know, how many bosses is going to be, whatever. So it certainly seems like pretty casual rating to me.
Yeah, I agree. All right, boss updates. They give us some teasers here. So Grubus, there's going to be new radiation vents that may just come into play during the encounter. This is probably one of my favorite ones. The Crowd Pummeler 960. This boss has moved to a new part of the dungeon where your encounter will occur on a raised platform before a crowd. And I was like, cool. All right, the Crowd Pummeler actually takes place in front of a crowd pummeling your raid.
Commence the pummeling.
I like it. This is good. I'm happy with that. They also said that Mech Engineer Thermoplug now has new mechanical suits as part of his arsenal. So we'll have to see what that actually plays out to, whether he bounces from suit to suit or like what ends up happening. I just like that they gave some tweaks to these bosses. It's going to make it a lot spicier. So that's going to be fun for people to actually check out and enjoy. They did mention something about loot. They said that items such as the automatic Crowd Pummeler will allow players to pick up just one of these items to reuse over and over as a quality of life improvement. So it's no longer like, hey, this thing gets destroyed occasionally. So just keep that in mind. Some of these older items have gotten some tweaks to make the game more fun. Obviously, item sets are going to be another part of that. That's going to be a little bit interesting as far as what they choose to do with set bonuses to sort of keep people interested in that. The dungeon updates, they actually did these new things, these new ability sort of books. There's a Testament of Enhanced Blessings, a Revelation of Totemic Projection, and a Manual of Redirect. Basically, in Season Discovery Phase 2, there'll be new skill books added as part of the 5-player dungeon drops from various creatures. These are quality of life improvements that will not take the place of a rune to help address such things as short aura durations for paladins and totem control for shamans, or even manipulating combo points for rogues. This is amazing. So I thought for sure there was going to be something where they're like, all right, we're going to put in a paladin rune. This paladin rune is going to have one major effect that's this thing, and we're just going to slap the like enhanced blessings onto it, right? Just going to throw that in there as something for someone to use. But it does kind of then go, okay, well, if you're not using this, unless they throw that enhanced blessings on like the 3 different runes or 5 different runes that they have, it's sort of telling people use this for quality of life all of the time, right? Which is a crappy way to do it. So I like the idea that they basically have these new drops people can go and farm that essentially let you click on a book, and that gives you something like totemic projection or your enhanced blessings, or be able to move your combo points around. That's great. I dig this. This is a really big quality of life improvement. So that is certainly something for people to be excited about if you're going to be doing some Season of Discovery this week.
Yeah, it seems like these spell books, whatever you want to call them, as a blanket term, are really, they're all just dialed in on quality of life,
Yeah.
Taking some of those kind of rougher edges on some of the classic stuff and making it a bit more like more modern versions of the game. Not even like newer versions of the game, but, newer ones than vanilla, right? Like enhanced blessing and stuff like that. So that's really cool. And I mean, being able to redirect rogue combo points is going to be huge. Like that's awesome. And yeah, it's not like it's not a choice you have to make. You're not giving this up for something else or whatever. Well, you just got to go find them, and then it's just you benefit from that permanently in Season of Discovery. That's a really cool addition in terms of all the other stuff that we're getting. Like obviously we're getting new runes, we're getting cool new gear, we're getting all kinds of other upgrades, and then you also get all these quality of life benefits. Like I just feel like the Season of Discovery team is really tuned into what players want and what feels good and bad about playing something like this.
Yeah. I just think they're moving in a good direction as far as that goes. We also mentioned that there's no more GDKP runs going on. So those who are used to using that system, that's something that they're moving away from. They just apparently said that they recognize that there are some concerns around the erosion of the traditional guild and social structures that are part of the spirit of Season of Discovery. And so given the experimental nature of this, they want to try things out without this type of transaction taking place in the game. It basically comes down to, hey, people who want to buy loot, that's inside of a run. That's what the system was for, is essentially bidding a certain amount of gold on a item that you wanted. And if you bid the most gold, then you got the item. So moving away from that structure is just something that they wanted to try for this, which I don't blame them for. So we'll have to see how that goes. But yes, Phase 2 is going live on February 8th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So be ready to dive in and, play a whole bunch of World of Warcraft. This Season Discovery is something you're interested in doing. It's something that I'll check out, and I'll certainly talk about on the show, and we'll see what's going on. It's
yeah. I'll be diving in this week too. I don't know that I'll have. I don't know. By the next time we speak, I may not be level 40 yet, but I'm. I'm going to get in there and play. I do want to point out that they mentioned this at BlizzCon, but they confirm it in this post as well. There's going to be a huge XP buff from level 1 to 25 once Phase 2 starts.
Right. Yeah.
So if you didn't play Phase 1 or you nibbled a little bit but didn't really get there, you could catch up really, really fast. So I would say, it's basically they have a header in the blog post. It's not too late to join in, and it's really not. And there's still a lot of stuff to come in Season Discovery. There's only Phase 2 of 4, right? And it's just super fun. Even if vanilla was never really your jam or whatever, or you don't really see the appeal of classic or going back in time, this is a different version of the game. It's not vanilla WoW. It's not strictly revisiting the past. This is a different way to play WoW, and it's a much different experience in practice. I thought it sounded cool when they announced it at BlizzCon, but I had way more fun playing Phase 1 than I thought I would. So I do encourage people who've been kind of on the sidelines to check it out. And man, I got to imagine that leveling a fresh tune from 1 to 25 must feel amazing with this buff coming in. Maybe I'll Maybe I'll get inspired and put a little extra time into the rogue and start getting up there. I kind of doubt it. I just don't have that kind of free time right now, but it does make me think like, hey, well, that would be a way to start getting in there. And I mean, I wonder if you'll be able to get the extra rune slots. Like, do they only unlock once you hit like 40 or whatever, or can you use them on the way up?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on how they actually lay it out. If it's anything like phase 1, then you'll be able to actually get your runes on your way up, and you'll find boots ones, and you'll find, the other ones that they're putting out there for people to actually be able to check out and equip to their gear and have fun with that. I hope that they put in a way to make the older runes easier accessible for folks, because otherwise it is a bit of a chore to sort of on your way up to 40 be like, oh, I have to make sure I run from this area of the continent all the way over to that area of the continent. Like, there were definitely some of those tasks that took several hours to complete getting one rune, and I do feel like them adding some sort of way for folks to get those at a more ready way off of a vendor, for example, would be a very, very nice thing for them to do for people. I'd also like it if they made the runes account wide. I'm just saying. So if you have more than one mage on your account, you just have all the runes that you had on your one mage unlocked on your other mage. That would be another nice thing if they did. So there's a few quality
especially
of life
for the
things.
ones you gotta spend a lot of gold to get.
Yeah. Or reputation locked ones, or like there's certainly some of them that are they take a long time to sort of accomplish. And a lot of the ones that were reputation locked, for example, turning in all those little chests to actually get the reputation up to get them, are the ones for your ultimate, your other spec, right? It's your taunt for rogues. It's your warlock tanking abilities. Like, all that stuff was locked inside a lot of cases behind reputation grind. And I could see people being frustrated with, okay, you made leveling up easier, but it's still a huge pain to be able to get a few of these runes that I need to actually have fun playing my class. And I think that's unfortunate. So I do think they could lessen the barriers that exist for some of these runes.
I think it's okay to have some runes that are grindy or more of like, a goal, more of like an aspirational thing. I do think it's okay, but I guess what would be cool would be to see that stuff get funneled into the 25 to 40 zone band, so that you can do it in phase 2 end game or whatever content, or phase 2 content as you level up, instead of just having it all parked in, low level stuff necessarily. If you just kind of leveled through and didn't collect everything, then it could be kind of a drag. So hopefully some of that stuff will get some alternative acquisition methods or something. I mean, we don't totally know right now, but I think those are some opportunities they have for sure. Is to just, you want part of the appeal of this is having players within a small level band, and where like only a certain amount of the content is sort of the end of the game or whatever, or like end game. So, I think there's some opportunities there to just really concentrate all the stuff that matters into those spaces. So I guess we'll see how it goes in this phase, and then if they carry anything forward, maybe they don't do it this time, but phase 3 they go, oh, actually we need to make like everything, we need to funnel everything into level 50 to make sure that people can, get all the stuff that they want.
Yeah, I just specifically feel like the class altering runes shouldn't be ones that are locked behind a grind of some kind or a max level situation. I think it's unfortunate that for people who wanted to play healers as mages or tanks as rogues, that they essentially had to hit max level and then accomplish something, and then they could start doing that role, as opposed to on the way up, they're tanking dead mines and they're tanking stockades, and they're like, that to me would have been much more interesting, because essentially it means that, once you're max level, you can experience this, but you're only really going to experience it in raid, because there's not a whole lot of dungeon grind that you do. Maybe Shadowfang Keep was like one of the few areas where people really went to actually do some stuff at max level, where you're going to experience doing something that in that different role. So I think giving those runes a little bit earlier on, a little bit more accessible, would have been a better decision when it comes to allowing players to experience that a little bit better. It's also less pressure. Learning to tank in, lower end dungeons is substantially less pressure than in a raid. Just putting that out there when it comes to like, hey, I haven't tanked on my rogue before, but here we go, it's a raid, let's try it. Like, that is a little bit daunting. So I would just say it'd be nice if they made those accessible a bit earlier. So yeah, I hope all of that comes to fruition. We'll find out. All right. With that, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons. They contribute a ton to our show, and they help us improve on the content we create. And today I'm giving a shout out to Alianas, Arajian, Celian, James, Kapawi, Max, Shorel, Rager, and Vespin. Thank you so much for everything you give. And man, oh man, patrons, you guys are great. You're helping us out. You're paying the bills, and you're helping us sort of improve the show that we're making. So thank you to all of our patrons. Our Patreon is located over at patreon.com/thestartingzone if you're trying to find it and jump in and support the show. We appreciate it. No new patrons this week, but man, we do appreciate all the support that you all give to us. Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot. And yeah, just wanted to make sure you knew that.
Absolutely. Thank you, patrons, for your support, past and present. It's been incredible over the years, and next month is going to be 15 years of Starting Zone. And we haven't had the Patreon running that long, but it has been quite a few years now. So thank you, everybody that's helped us out over the years and help keep the show in production, help keep the archives online. We appreciate you. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you for helping us out.
Yeah. And if you folks have enjoyed this episode, another great way to support the show is heading on over to your iTunes, your Apple Podcasts, and leaving us those 5-star reviews. We're still working our way through the ones that we got, but I want more. I want more of these reviews. So if you're thinking about leaving us a 5-star, head on over to your iTunes, your Apple Podcast, and we will read it here live on the show. This one comes in from Valcomer in the US, entitled "Subscribe and Enjoy WoW Even More. I found the Starting Zone last year, just before Dragonflight. Jason and Spencer are wonderful hosts. The information and storytelling of their own experiences has helped me to understand many aspects of the game. It is easy to get overwhelmed at the immensity of World of Warcraft. The Starting Zone gives me ideas to work on, new perspectives to the game, and direction on how to spend my limited gaming time. As a player who is on and off again with many expansions since the beginning of the game, I believe being connected to TSC has increased my own enjoyment of all the game has to offer. Thank you, Spencer and Jason. Thank you. You are most welcome, Valcomer, and I thank you for leaving us that review. It means a lot to us, and I'm glad that we are able to help decipher the complexities of the game and help point you in the directions where you have even more fun and can enjoy the game even more. So that's all we really strive for is, back when we started the show, people going, hey, there's nothing to do in World of Warcraft, or hey, the game's just so overwhelming, I just don't feel like knowing I just don't know what I want to do when I log in, right? There's just too much to do. So we try and decode and decipher and decomplicate and demystify the whole thing so you can get in there and enjoy. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time to write in, and glad we could help you out and help you enjoy the game. Yeah, great to hear from you. And Volcom somebody who hangs out in Discord a bunch, so that's always nice. And also, Volcomer's been over there on Wild Growth with the DJ's crew and doing some BFD. So that's been fun too. So thanks for taking the time and letting us know.
Yeah. That wraps up episode 617 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out show notes for this episode or leave us a comment on the show, you can head on over to the Starting Zone podcast, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. It's startingzone.com. And if you want to contact the show and leave us your feedback or ask a question, you can email us at thestartingzone@gmail.com or reach out to us on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at The Starting Zone. Or you can, as Jason just mentioned, join our Discord server. If you're looking for our Discord server, you can go to thestartingzone.com/Discord. And you can just, click on the button that's there, and it'll open up our Discord server with an invite for you, and you can hop in and say hello and chat and maybe raid some BFD. Who knows? If you want to get your hands on some TSC gear, you can find that over at TeePublic. That's teepublic.com/stores/thestartingzone. You can check out all the designs on shirts and mugs and stickers and all that kind of fun stuff. And Jason, where can folks find you on the interwebs?
Best place to find me, as always, over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald. You can also find me streaming WoW sometimes on twitch.tv/Shieldwald and or youtube.com/Shieldwald. Video channel's been quiet lately. Like I said, I've been pretty sick and just low energy, and trying to spare any viewers from my coughing fits. But I might be back this week. I'm feeling a bit better. I'm feeling a bit, coming around a bit, and then it'll be the question of does my internet hold up. But check out the video channels, and of course come say hi over on Twitter.
Nice. If you're trying to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey. If you want to throw me a subscribe or something, you can head on over to Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD or over on YouTube at youtube.com/@SpencerHD. And those are those video channels that Jason mentioned as well. With that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening, and jobs done.